Warren Buffett has been highly regarded as the world's greatest investor. Berkshire Hathaway has been performing at an incredible level since the low levels seen in March of 2009. Today we find out what Mr. Buffett has amassed over the past few years to the tune of over $100 billion. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at Warren Buffett, we're going to look at Berkshire Hathaway, and see what they've been up to. Let's begin by taking a look at the ownership itself. You don't need to read articles, you don't need to watch interviews of Warren Buffett, and you don't need to speculate on what Berkshire Hathaway has been buying. You can see it for yourself and monitor it as time goes on. All you have to do is go to a search engine and type in Berkshire Hathaway 13F. So that's 13F. And you will see the SEC's website where this information is publicly available. The issue with the SEC's website is that it's hard to read, the font is small, it's not organized. So there are a few resources out there, this being one of them, whalewisdom.com, and it really organizes everything well. It provides nice graphs. You can see the top buys, the top sells, their holdings currently, and it just makes it really easy to go through this. This is something that I like to do regularly. I like to see all the big boys, what they're buying and selling, and not look at mainstream media resources that may shelter some of these buys and sells, but I can see it exactly for what it is. But that means I have to do my own due diligence and periodically check up on this. And I suggest everybody do the same. So here we are. The top buys. This information is as of 12/31/2017, but I will show you in a moment. It's updated as of February 2018, okay? So you'll see here, Apple, a huge buy. This is on their top buy right now. And Bank of New York Mellon, Teva Pharmaceuticals, and Monsanto as well. All big purchases here. And the biggest sell for Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, has been IBM. Okay? There's something else that I wanted to point out. If you take a look at this, we can see that there are 5 companies that make up approximately half of the portfolio of Berkshire Hathaway. Now that would tell us that they're not really as diversified as we've been told to become. Look at this. The top 10 holdings percentage, believe it or not, is over 80%. 10 stocks, 80% of the portfolio. So if you just bought in to the top 10 stocks that Berkshire Hathaway owns, you would have approximately 80% of the performance that they've had. I'm not suggesting anybody do this strategy. I'm just stating a fact. So the diversification that we're always told about, that Warren Buffett may even recommend at times, it's generally something you hear in the financial world. You need to be diversified. Never put all your eggs in one basket. And it doesn't seem that he's following the same methodology of many, let's say, mutual funds and investment funds that may have one mutual fund investing in 100 or maybe even more, 1,000 different types of investments, different stocks, bonds, what have you. And as far as I'm considered, the performance really speaks for itself. But that isn't necessarily the best thing to do for those with less sophistication. You may not get the best performance if you diversify too much, because of course not everything performs at the same rate. Warren Buffett's strategy has always been buy and hold for the long term. He doesn't necessarily hold forever, but he wants to hold for a long period of time. He wants to hold good, solid companies for long periods of time, hold them through recessions, Hold when it makes sense to hold. All right? So that's what he's been doing. It's been working for him. Many people simply copy whatever he buys and sells. They just do exactly that. That may work for some people. I don't think that's necessarily a good program because we don't know that there isn't other things going on under the table. We really don't. So let's take a look further into what they've been buying and selling. I'll just cover it quickly here. The font is quite small, so I'll move through things as quick as I possibly can. Here is Apple at the top of the list here. Now just think about this for a moment. 165 million shares. If you were to buy Apple today and you bought 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 shares of Apple, you don't even make a drop in the bucket compared to what this one company owns. Market value, $28 billion. Approximately 15% of the portfolio held in Apple. So the value of Apple and the value of Berkshire are definitely linked. That's something to think about. They bought 31 million shares, a massive number, absolutely massive. So let's take a look at what else they've been buying and selling here. You can see Wells Fargo, I believe this is. Wells Fargo, yes, selling a major quantity of the shares. Coming down the list here, we can see US Bancorp. They have been buying this here. Bank of New York Mellon, buying a massive quantity as well. This is American Airlines selling off. This is General Motors selling, and Monsanto, they've been buying. So these are some of the buys and sells on the top of the list right now. If you look at the very right-hand column, that's the date reported, and that would be February 14th, 2018. The source, however, is from the end of the year, 2017. So these are reported on a regular basis, and you can always be checking up on this. If you could think of a company and you want to know what they're invested in, or maybe a particular person like a Warren Buffett, you can always search for what they're buying, what they're selling. Don't trust anybody, okay? Look it up for yourself. It's very important. So all of this, right? What else have they been buying? What about that over $100 billion worth? What is it? Is it Facebook? Is it Amazon? What could it be? Well, did you think that Warren Buffett would do this? Playing with $100 billion, Warren Buffett is giant trader of U.S. Treasury bills. Can you believe it? Berkshire Hathaway is now one of the world's largest owners of Treasury bills. Cash pile soars as it struggles to find acquisitions. Some of these companies out there are holding on to the biggest piles of cash you've ever seen. Not buying into companies, not putting it into research and development, not allowing it to be productive. They're sitting on cash. So what do? Well, they're trying to make a little bit of money off it. In this case here, Berkshire. The shareholders will look to Warren Buffett's annual letter Saturday for new clues of what the conglomerate plans to do with more than $100 billion in cash. There's little mystery about who is getting that money. Meanwhile, Uncle Sam. Berkshire has used its mounting cash pile to become one of the world's largest owners of U.S. Treasury bills after struggling to find big companies to buy in recent years. It held $109 billion in cash as of September 30th, up from $86 billion at the end of 2016. And that's more than double what it had at the end of 2006. Now, you have to remember what Warren Buffett said. The stupidest reason to buy something is because it has been going up. That was what he said, not me. I happen to agree, but that's what he said. Now, they're invested in short-term bills because they're ready to pull out. It's not something that they necessarily want to keep, but they keep adding to their position. Berkshire has an outsized presence in the $2 trillion market for treasury bills, a type of government debt that matures in a year or less. It held more bills around the end of the third quarter than large countries such as China and the UK. Imagine that. More than China, more than the UK. All right. And I found this to be very interesting as well. It also had more at that time than the $13 billion held collectively by a group of 23 primary bond dealers that are obligated to underwrite U.S. government debt sales. Berkshire's holdings are big enough that when bond dealers need bills for a specific date, they come to Berkshire and arrange a trade. That's according to Warren Buffett himself. They don't even go out there to the normal market process. They go to Berkshire Hathaway. That's how much they're sitting on. There's no way I can come back here 3 years from now and tell you that we hold $150 billion or so in cash or more, and we think we're doing something brilliant by doing it. I would say that history is on our side, but it would be more fun if the phone would ring. Now, they're obviously looking for places to buy, but at this time, they've been, struggling. Why? Because things have really been heating up, and he's unsure how much further it can go. So at least they can buy into the treasuries and, for the time being anyway, hold on to that money. So we'll see. We'll see what they end up acquiring. I mean, if something happens to be falling down, I'm sure Berkshire will swoop in and bail it out. I believe at some point in the future they'll be rewarded, and we'll be rewarded as shareholders for having all of that cash. They'll be sitting there ready to pounce. All right. At the bottom of this article, Berkshire typically buys about, now think about this, $4 billion in treasuries every Monday. Every Monday, this company buys $4 billion worth of something. That's how massive this giant conglomerate is. If they can go out there every week, buy $4 billion worth, you know that they have the power to influence. And that's what we need to remember. All corporations, major corporations, a company that can spend $4 billion a week, is able to influence the government that they reside in, and of course other governments too, should they require that. They can take care of the politicians, those in the financial industry, those regulating any of the areas which their companies do business in. Think about that for a moment. If every week they could spend $4 billion, how much money would it take to, let's just say, be friendly with different regulators, institution, competition, politicians? You decide. I just think that it's something that we should always be considering. So that's what Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, has been doing. You can see it for yourself. If you want to see what any other big business is getting into, you can check it out. Look for the 13F filings. See it for yourself. Don't rely on anyone else. Don't even rely on the interviews of Warren Buffett. See it for yourself. It's very important. That's all for this video. If you found it informative, I would appreciate a thumbs up. Of course, if you comment on these videos, if you subscribe to the channel, it's going to help me very much. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. And last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know that you will find my books, The Money GPS, and my newer release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can actually flip through these books. If you go over to Amazon, there's a look inside feature. It's going to allow you to flip through the pages of these books to see if you like them. If you're interested in the audiobook version of Global Economic Collapse, you can get that at themoneygps.com. Take care.